Alright guys, welcome back. I'm now gonna continue my experiments with the contrast paints, trying to knock out this poxbringer. I'm gonna quickly run through what I've done to the Mini since I left off. So I've gone with Vallejo Silver on the sword, bone color on the horns, fingernails, stuff like that. I went with Vallejo Squid Pink, I think it's called. Just on the bottom, gonna have a play with that, and then some gold up here for the bells, and we're gonna use the contrast paints on these as well, just to see how they work, what kind of results we can get just mucking around with them. So for the horns, I'm gonna do a couple with Skeleton Horde straight from the pot, and then I'm gonna go ahead and mix some of it with the contrast medium, and just to see kind of how the two will look. So straight from the pot, I'll go right ahead and start applying that to this central horn. And I'll do these ones here as well. So finding with straight from the pot, perhaps more is a little better than being a bit reserved with these. Let's go ahead and quickly pop on the fingernails. Let me try and focus back in there, sorry. And do the teeth. Right, so now I'm gonna go with the 50-50 mix here and try it on this big horn at the back. So for me personally, I'm actually preferring it thinned. It's kind of pooling a lot more, even on this relatively flat surface, to the areas that I'd want it to pool. So initially I am thinking, yeah, definitely the medium does appear to work in your favor with the flatter surfaces like these horns. Just going to go in with some neat and just add it to the point where I'd want the darkest shadows, just to add a bit more texture and detail for relatively no extra work. Okay, slap some down on his, guess you'll call them toenails, and finish off the rest of the horns. So I'm going to try and finish this Mini in one take, so all in all I reckon it'd be the full miniature in about 15 minutes. To increase my drying times, I use a hairdryer, but I won't probably need that today because I'm going to be working on different bits. So that's the horns done. The thicker stuff at the front does look a bit nicer, however it has started to pool down, as you can see here, whereas the thin stuff now, actually, now that it is starting to dry, it's not as contrast, I guess, as you would hope for. So probably the straight from the pot I am actually really liking here. What I am going to do with Skeleton Horde, I'm going to put it on the bells to give it a bit of a worn copper look, and then I'll throw some the oxide paint on it as well at the end once it's dry. Slap it on there. So silver, what I'm going to do here is going to go with the Templar Black on top of Vallejo model color silver. It's the ones in the big pots. It's I think a 32mm pot. It has an agitator in it as well. So it's a great color, covers really well both with airbrush and regular brush, so I highly recommend them. Gonna thin the black down Probably not enough by the looks of it, because this is maybe starting to pool, I guess. This black, it's the first time using it, it is thick. Right, there we go. The sword's done. What we'll do is we'll go in probably with the oxide medium from the Citadel range. Just add a bit more detail to that once it's dry. Now the next paint I wanted to play with was the Blood Angels red. I'm just experimenting here with it on the pink just to see how it looks and what kind of effects we can get with it. So this is purely experimental here, and it's I don't really know what to think of that. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy. It literally just looks like a mess, so I'm going to throw the medium on top and try and thin out the raised edges, and we'll leave that to dry. So I still have some of this pink here on my wet palette off to the edge, so what I'm going to do is just quickly, while we're adding details, is throw a couple of bits of pink on these intestines just to add a bit more detail, and to the guts in there. It looks quite bright, but it is quite thin, so when it dries, hopefully that will be muted down a bit more. And then finally we have Leviathan Blue. I went ahead and painted the eye with the bone colour, and I'm just going to go with a thinned blue for the eye. Just add a bit of extra colour in there. So I'm going to pause this quickly, get the hairdryer on it because it's taken a bit longer than anticipated, and then we'll finish up with the oxide. Alright, back in a second. Right guys, welcome back. I decided I'm not going to go ahead with the Neolac oxide on the sword. I'm going to use a rust pigment because it's something I haven't covered in a tutorial, so we'll quickly go through pigments as we're using it. For those of you who haven't used the GW Technical Paint oxide, it's pretty good for just adding a bit of extra detail to brasses and stuff. The way I personally work it is I'll slap on a few bits, and while it's still wet, get a clean brush with a bit of water on it, and I'll just play around with it, thin it out, and this way it'll naturally dry with varying degrees of colour. Okay, so I will get pictures in the light box once this is dried, but nice, simple, quick bit of oxidization there. For the rust, I'm just going to use one pigment because we're trying to do this model as quick as possible, and we're just going to wet brush into the rust pigment. I'll get it here, so I'm just working off some of it onto my finger, getting a small amount while it's still wet, and just applying it into the crevices and cracks. And then depending on how strong you want it, you can either leave it as is, or once it's dry, just get a old brush and just give it a quick dusting, and that'll help remove some of the pigment, and then just seal it in once you're happy with the desired results. But as you can see now, it's for under 20 minutes. It doesn't look too bad, I guess. To have a whole model complete. Like I said, complete experiment, just messing around with the new contrast paints, threw in a couple of technical paints and pigments while we're at it. Any questions or things you'd like to see next, just leave a comment, send me an email, visit the website, whatever. And I hope you enjoyed this. Next up, I'll most likely be doing Warcry, the Iron Golems, and then also I'll be continuing posting up the tutorial on how to paint the Astra Militarum Steel Legion, mainly on the Macarius Vulcan I did recently, once I finish editing that. These videos, completely unedited, very quick, but hopefully will help you guys make your decisions if wanting to use contrast paints, how to use contrast paints. Like I said, subscribe if you want to see more. Give a like if you like this. If you don't like it, leave some feedback. I can't get any better unless you guys tell me. But to conclude, contrast paints, not bad. I do particularly like the way the Skeleton Horde has worked on the bone. Over the steel, it's not worked too bad, especially with the rust pigment. It's added a bit of extra character to it. Over the gold to make a bronze, it's a bit hit and miss. Probably prefer it on the Nurgling to the Poxbringer himself, but there's a bit less red in it. But hey, just an experiment, having fun, a miniature in under 20 minutes, so I guess you can't go too wrong. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, subscribe, like, or leave a comment. Thanks very much.